It was 2-0 Calgary at the end of the first period, and Sergei Akin and Mark Hunter. Then in the second period, Nada scored at 1/3 to make it a 2-1 game. Murzin at 4:06 from Makarov. Then Minayev on a power play made it 3, and Theron Fleury 2, and Theron Fleury made it a 4-2 Calgary lead on a power play at 11:01 with Al McInnes drawing the assist. And so the score at the end of the second period is Calgary 4, Sokol Kiev 2.
Two periods are complete in Kiev. Darrell Burnett and Herb Brooks back in the Sports Nightly studios in New York. And Herb, before we went to the second period, you were talking about the Soviets employing the long passes. Harry Neal touched on it. Did it work for them?
Well, I thought so. They got them back into the flow of the game. It got them into a little more of a tempo. They've got to, any team that plays Calgary, whether you're in Europe or in the National Hockey League, Darrell, you've got to play a high-tempo game. You slow it down, they're too big and strong, and that brought them back in the game. And then Calgary converted a power play towards the end to open up the 2-goal gap.
4-2 right now. Time to take a break for our stations along the way. You're watching the NHL Soviet Hockey Series right here on Sports Channel. Stay with us.
The great NHL, they'll be odds-on favorite to win the World Championship next spring. So they're an excellent hockey club in mid-season form, and they were two very tough games for us.
Much of what makes this tour of the Soviet Union exciting is Makarov and Pryakin. How are they received in Czechoslovakia?
Well, they were received with mixed emotions, as Soviets always are there, but Sergei Makarov in Europe is recognized as one of the great players of European hockey, and he was treated well in Czechoslovakia.
And certainly is popular here from all we've seen both in and outside the arena. A brief comment on your concern about the campus pertains to the upcoming NHL season. There's conflicting opinion as to how it'll affect the Flames. What do you feel?
Oh, I feel it can do nothing but help us. I mean, this is a hockey experience that will be beneficial to all the players, and conditioning and the tempo of the games is such that we should be further ahead when we get home than we would have been normally. I guess that's the bottom line, but it's a great experience, and we're proud to be one of the two teams representing the NHL over here in this type series, and we're looking forward to all 4 games, and then I'm sure we'll be looking forward to getting home.
Yes, indeed, and thank you very much for the spaghetti and the bananas that all the Flames have provided. President GM Cliff Fletcher.
Now we'll take a break and be back with Herb Brooks and his analysis right after this. Stay with us. Brooks, Herb, the Soviets picked up their first goal in the second period. How did it happen? Did they use the long passes you were talking about earlier?
Well, not that first goal, Darrell, but they did it throughout the period. And one thing that they did, they wanted to get off to a good start. They want to have a lot of tempo. Here's something that they did. They had 2 guys going to net, and the third guy, the trailer, which is the all-important guy, breaking a check and getting that loose puck or semi-loose puck to be able to get that shot off. You don't see Calgary with the loose defensive zone coverage, and that helped. Here's the thing we talked about earlier, the influence of the wide rink, and also the influence of Sergei Makarov. Again, the weak side defenseman, Darrell, the one away from the puck, finding that little hole and penetrating in there. Tremendous pass by Makarov, however you want to pronounce him.
Both ways, right.
But again, this is the influence that we will see, and the players will mirror him as they mirror Gretzky, as they mirror a Lemieux. And his influence, you know, will be very profound this year.
Some of these Soviet players, though, Herb, have not had an opportunity to play the bulk of their career in the United States. What influence will it have from that stage? Will some of these players be on their last leg, so to speak, bringing experience rather than great enthusiasm to the game?
Well, they are in their last legs, but their legs still have something left. There's no question. They are world-class athletes, the players that are in the National Hockey League. It's going to be a tremendous treat for the National Hockey League fans to watch these people. It's just going to you have to look at the big picture, the long range. Yeah, there's going to be a few jobs taken away from the North American hockey player, but if you look at the influence, you look at the positive type of thing they're bringing to the game, it's going to be very, very good. Their influence will not only be the legs, but they are at this point of their career going this way, but they're here in North America. It's a new lifestyle. They're going to be like rookies, so I think that's just going to pick their game up. And I think we're going to see a continuing blending of the styles of game, a hybrid type of style of play that we're starting to see in the National Hockey League. We go back to 1972 in the first international play, and it's slowly gravitating. We're taking some of the great things out of the European game And also the Europeans are taking some of the things out of the Canadian game.
I'm talking about lifestyles a little bit earlier there, Herb. We'll talk to Lanny McDonald and his wife Ardell about what it's like being in Russia right now. That's coming up next. Stay with us. Now, Lanny's wife Ardell has accompanied him to the Soviet Union. They talked to Ron McClain moments ago.
We are at the Palace of Sport in Kiev in the Ukraine of the Soviet Union, and there's a throng around Lanny and Ardell McDonald. The reason is they're popular, and also they're handing out bubble gum. Ardell, Lanny, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. How about a word to home first?
Oh, Ron, it seems like it's been ages since I've been home. Hi to all my kids, to all our friends and family, and from all the girls sitting in the stands cheering for the guys. Hello to all their children, too.
Lanny McDonald's happy to have a Stanley Cup ring, but happier to have a wedding ring. How are the fellas holding up, Lanny?
Actually, they're ready to go home right now. It's been a nice trip, but it's getting to wear on the guys, and I think they're all anxious to get home. We've only got about 5 days left, and I know they're all ready and willing to see North America again.
Ardell, you've been touring like mad. What have you been up to?
Well, I think they've taken us through every palace and every museum here in Russia. It's been a wonderful trip. The guides and the interpreters have been terrific to us all, but it certainly makes you appreciate your own country.
And Lanny, just a closing comment from you in terms of your role with the Calgary Flames. You're vice president in terms of the community relations. How are you looking forward to that?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just an expanded role of what I've been doing all along, and this has kind of been a holiday over here. There hasn't been much to do except smile and make sure everyone's enjoying themselves. I know my real work begins once I get home.
Well, the Flames benefit a whole lot for what you do to the young Flames, especially, and their wives and girlfriends, and I'm glad you're here on the trip. It wouldn't be a Flames game without you.
Thanks very much, Ron.
Lanny and Ardell McDonald, the Calgary Flames leading Sokol Kiev at the end of 2 periods of play here at the Palace of Sport by a score of 4-2.
And we'll send you back to Kiev for the 3rd period coming up right after this break. Stay with us.
Drug addict was controller of.
I'm here with Herb Brooks. We'll be back after the game. Meanwhile, we'll send you out to Don Whitman and Harry Neal at ringside in Kiev with a 3rd period call. Gentlemen.
Welcome back to the Palace of Sport in Kiev. The Calgary Flames leading by a score of 4-2. It was 2-0 at the end of the 1st period for Calgary, and each team scored a pair of goals in the 2nd period. Steve Gannett in goal for the Calgary Flames. He took over just before the 14-minute mark of the period from starter Rick Wamsley. Wamsley surrendered both goals to Sokol Kiev. Steve Gannett acquired on the 9th of January in trade by the Calgary Flames. Mike Vernon, who started the game against Himmick in Leningrad on Thursday night, is not dressed for this game tonight.
And I think it's only fair to comment that this Czech referee, Mr. Liba, has been far more tolerant than the referee Johansson was in Himmick on Thursday and last night in Moscow, as he gave Washington Capitals a ton of penalties in that 8-7 overtime victory for the Caps over Moscow's Spartak.
Some very questionable calls in that game last night, but the Capitals managed to win by a score of 8-7. And David Poyle, the general manager of the Capitals, is in attendance at this game, merely interested in watching the play of number 8 of Sokol Kiev, Kristich, Dmitry Kristich, who was drafted by Washington in one of the latter rounds of the 1989 amateur draft.
This is a Soviet ploy. When they're behind going into the 3rd period, they don't start the clock. So they give the home team a little more time to come from behind and get a victory. Nobody on the Calgary team has noticed it yet. Now Paul Baxter is signaling to the players on the ice that the clock hasn't started. And I think they're using the other clock, Don, the one on the other side of the end of the rink. The Russians are tricky fellows, and sometimes they pull the hidden clock trick on you.
Well, there's no clock over center ice as we are accustomed to. The clock is on a scoreboard at the end of the rink. Sinkoff with a blast high up off the glass. Nada in the corner attempting to center it. Knocked down by Murzin. Comes to the line, kept in by the Soviets. Nada with another shot that goes wide. Zinkov from a bad angle took a shot off a skate. The puck bouncing around in the Calgary zone. Nieuwendyk bumps with the Soviet player Neda, but the play is whistled down as the puck was hit with a high stick.
Well, I think you'll agree with me, Whit, that this is a beautiful city, Kiev. There's the clock trying to catch up to the game. It will. The Dnieper River winds through a hilly countryside with cathedrals and statues. Only 90 miles from here, the city of Chernobyl, where they had the terrible nuclear accident. It alarmed me a little in my tourist guide as we flew in from Leningrad, where it said short visits to the Kiev-Chernobyl area are not hazardous to your health. And I really got upset when I saw that Debbie Boone's hit song, You Light Up My Life, is banned here in Kiev.
Face off in the Soviet zone, brought out by Kristich. Over on the right side to Yaldashev. Yaldashev back to Kristich, and the play was broken up neatly by Doug Gilmour, who did a good job of dropping back into his own zone.
Calgary on Thursday night, after they got a lead of 4-1, sat back and really did a pretty good job of protecting it, killing off penalties. I wonder if they'll try and come at this game and get the 5th goal, which would probably end Kiev's chances of winning.
Perkanov leaves it there for Kristich. He's taken in heavily against the boards by Gilmour. The two of them continue bumping, and the puck goes loose to Brad McCrimmon. 4-2, the Calgary Flames lead. That is the score they won by on Thursday night in Leningrad when they defeated Himik. Himik was the #2 team in the Soviet Union last year. Gilmour drops it off for McClellan. McClellan with a shot that Samoilev is forced to stop. Gilmour gets it again to the point to Natras. Natras lets it go through traffic, and a loose puck that Samoilev managed to get a glove on with McClellan standing right on top of him. 2:18 is the time gone by in the second period. 4-2 Calgary lead.
Sports Channel takes you behind the Iron Curtain. The Stanley Cup champion Calgary Flames and playoff MVP Al McInnes represent the NHL's best. The Patrick Division champion Washington Capitals and Scott Stevens bring the apple pie to the USSR. The NHL is in the Soviet Union for the first time ever, and Sports Channel is your only ticket to the game. It's trench warfare when Calgary faces off against the Red Army. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, exclusively on Sports Channel, Wednesday.
This young goalie, Vitaly Samolov, has really been quite sharp in here since coming in halfway through the second period and replacing the KG vet Shundog.
The Flames attempted to get it back to the point, but the puck slid between Suter and Natras, and now they have to regroup in their own zone. Fleury gains control, flips it down into Soviet territory. Ovchinnikov lays it up along the boards for Oletsky. Vasilinkov is decked by Natras as Tim Hunter comes back to pick it up for Calgary. For Suter. Suter weaves his way in across the line, but Hunter was ahead of the play offside.
Well, it's nice to see Gary Suter back in action if you're a Calgary fan. Boy, he had a lot of tough luck with the injuries. I think it might take him a little longer to get in the groove this year than it would have had he played into late May like most of his teammates did. But he was well on the way to challenging Al McInnes for the scoring lead among defensemen, and I'm sure would have got a number of votes for the Norris Trophy had he been able to finish the year in one piece.
Talking about Al McInnes, he is dressed tonight, but he is dressed as the 7th defenseman, and this was the plan of Coach Terry Crisp, to use McInnes only on the power play. So McInnes has had just one shift so far in the game, and that only lasted about 30 seconds. Ranheim is spun around as the puck is fired out of the zone. Now picked up by Malkov. Malkov over to Kulabukov in front, and Stepanshev was tied up. Shreyev centering it, and Kulabukov deflected it into the pads of goaltender Steve Gannett.
Well, you know, the hockey experts here in Kiev say they have a very young team, a lot of young players on this team, and to finish 5th last year and be a team that their coach thinks can finish higher than that this year maybe is something that the fans here in Kiev can look forward to, especially with Red Army retreating as a power. And the clock is caught up to the game, and Kiev is trying to catch up to the Flames.
3:22 gone by as Mark Hunter comes in across the line. High shot, a good wrist shot that went over top of the Soviet net. Mark Hunter scored the second goal of this hockey game for Calgary as they enjoyed a 2-0 first period lead. In the game against Timmick, Calgary got off to a very quick start, scoring just 31 seconds into the game, the goal by Gary Roberts, and they led 3-0 at the end of the first period. Godinak in his own zone, playing it around the boards, and it slides down the ice and back into Calgary territory. Murzin gains control of the puck and loses it. Gorbishin moving in, just slid it wide. Centered for Nada, he was tied up by Mark Hunter, and here comes the captain, Jim Poplinski, in on the right side, bumping with Godinak. This Soviet team likes to play a physical game, but they are giving away a weight advantage almost for every man of about 15 to 20 pounds.
Unless you run at Gilmore or Fleury, you're in trouble if you play for Kiev as far as the physical disadvantage is concerned. Number 3, Godniak has been one of the more impressive defensemen, and he was a member of the Junior World Championship team in Anchorage last year, along with number 8, Kristich.
And Kristich is the player that was driving for the net, but he was tied up, and the puck never got through to him. Nieuwendyk in across the line with Roberts and Makarov. The puck slides to the net, but neither could get their stick on it as it was deflected behind the goal. Ziniev plays it up along the boards, kept in at the point by Sabarin. Now Ziniev gains control. He moves it ahead to Kristich. On the left side to Bukhanov. Drop pass for Kristich, and Kristich had difficulty controlling it as he tried to go around the veteran defenseman Brad McCrimmon. McCrimmon is bumped in against the boards by Yuldashev. Finally, the puck is poked loose, and Gary Roberts is there to gather it up for the Calgary Flames.
I think David Poyle is going to like the looks of this Kristich. He's only 20 years old, and he's made some nice moves tonight.
Kristich was a member of the Soviet team in the 1987 World Championships in Moscow, and he was part of the team that won the gold medal last year in Anchorage, Alaska. Gilmore pries it loose off the boards for Priakin. Priakin is checked by Kristich. The puck goes loose. McClellan has it. McClellan to Gilmore. Gilmore threw it out the short side. There was nobody in position, and the Soviets start back. Bukhanov with a long shot that is steered to the corner by Gannett. Gary Suter up along the boards. Gilmore deflects it to the neutral zone. We played 6:17 of the third period. It's 4-2 Calgary.
And the next goal is a critical one. If Kiev can get it, this is going to be a great finish to a pretty good hockey game. If the Flames get it, the mountain may be a little too high for Kiev to climb.
6:27 is gone by in the third.
Tennis Magazine covers everything.
A good crowd of about 6,000 taking in the action in Kiev. The ticket price, 6 rubles. Ticket prices normally for hockey games are 1 ruble.
Well, I don't know whether they're getting 6 times as much for their ruble tonight, but they are seeing a good effort by the home team, and they are playing the Stanley Cup champions, the Calgary Flames. They don't have to do that very often this season in this rink.
Shiryev being pestered by Tim Hunter. Obviously, he's all right after that second period collision with Doug Gilmore. Stolen by Johansson to Hunter. He lets the shot go off the stick of Lubnin. Played around in the boards, kept in by Johansson. A long shot knocked down in front by Lubnin, and he clears the zone as it slides back into Calgary territory. This will produce an icing call against Sokol Kiev.
Well, you know, in 1943, the population of Kiev was 180,000. Today, it's over 2.6 million, the third largest city in the USSR. In 1943, it ended the German occupation, and 800 of the 1,160 businesses were out of it. 42% of the living space was destroyed. 940 government public buildings were in rubble, and 80% of the citizens were homeless. So these people, the older people of Kiev, have fought back from a terrible situation, and we noticed a lot of the old-timers on the streets wearing their war medals on their regular suits, and I'm sure they're very proud of their efforts at a very difficult time for this young Ukrainian city.
Samoilev with a fine stop off Roger Johansson. And one of the things that we have noticed in Kiev is the beautiful wide tree-lined streets as they have rebuilt the city.
And this young goaltender who took over, he's the backup goalie, but he's going to push the old man for a job the way he's looking. Shundrop is 33 and played 41 of the 44 games, and this young guy looks like he's going to get a chance to play if this is the way he can play every night.
Stepanishev trying to beat Murzin to the puck. He manages to get it out front, and a good sliding save by Roger Johansson as that puck was centered by the Soviets, but they couldn't get a shot away as a result of that fine play by the Swedish import. Quite an international lineup on this roster of the Calgary Flames. 3 Americans, 2 Soviets, 2 Swedes, and a Czechoslovakian player complementing the Canadians on the team. Malkov to Stepanishev, in front to Gorbushin, and the save is made by Gannett. For a moment he wasn't sure where that puck was, but he managed to cover up. So the score holds at 4-2 at 7:49 of the third.
I've been off of him now for...
You're looking at Coach Bogdanov from the Kiev team. You see he's got a stopwatch in his hands. He times the shift. He stands in front of his players. And that is out of the page of Anatoly Terezov, who is the dean of coaches historically here in Russia.
Well, his theory was that he wanted to look his players in the eye when he was talking to them.
Eyeballs, he said. We want those eyeball-to-eyeball conversations. We should see him in Moscow. I know Tom Watt, who knows him quite well, is quite anxious to see the old gentleman. And we'll try our best to see if we can get him on part of the show either Monday or Wednesday. And he was really the guy that brought the Soviets into world-class competition.
Ken Sabarin behind his own goal, flipping it up on the boards. I refer earlier to your comment, Harry, about the referee Lipa of Czechoslovakia letting more things go in this game than did the Swedish referee on Thursday night in Leningrad, and it's been a much more physical game as well.
Well, here's another look at a couple of the Flames that aren't dressed. There's McCowan, and behind him Blomqvist. And this is his first day out of bed. Boy, he was really felled by the flu. Both these players are expected to practice tomorrow and may get into this little tour on Monday in Moscow. I'm sure McCowan will. I'm not too sure whether Blomqvist will, and he'll probably play Wednesday if he doesn't play Monday. It's a tough place to be sick, I think, Don.
Race for that puck. Gannett way out of the goal to play it up on the boards, and the Calgary Flames get it out of the zone. Makarov looking for Neuendijk, who was in full flight coming through that neutral zone, and he couldn't quite handle the pass. Makarov again for Neuendijk. He has Roberts with him. Roberts in across the line, dropping it off to Natras. A long shot deflects off a stick and up into the crowd.
And Makarov made another one of those little plays that very few players can make. Very aware of where everybody is on the ice, even the guys behind him. And he made a nice little play to give the Roberts a chance to slide it over to Natras for a point shot. And Natras, who was superb in the playoffs last year, especially in the finals, finds himself like about 3 other Flame defensemen who sipped out of that Stanley Cup in a battle for a job. As they have 8, 9 defensemen, and they're all probably capable of playing in the league.
Godinuk off the boards for Alipov. He couldn't control it. Natras knocked off the puck. Alipov has it. Alipov takes the shot right on. Gannett makes the save. Steve Gannett in goal for the Flames, replacing Rick Wansley near the 14-minute mark of the second period. Since taking over, he has been unbeatable. Gorbushin back in his own zone. He brings it out for the Soviets to Alipov on the left side. Long slap shot, pad save by Gannett. Johansson plays it around the boards, and it comes out into the neutral zone. Godinuk, as the result of a collision with Joe Neuendijk, lost his helmet. Makarov slides it into the slot. Gilmore couldn't pick it up.
Boy, if I was an NHL scout, I'd be looking strongly at that Godinuk as a draft. He's been superb tonight, and he's a tough cookie.
Makarov moving into the slot, check. Stepanishev moving in. His shot goes off Murzin into the corner. Coming back to help out is Doug Gilmore. He got it loose, but not out. Ovchinnikov tried to move in, lost it to McClellan. Plays it ahead to Priakin. Priakin tried to go cross ice to Gilmore. A weak pass that didn't get through. Ovchinnikov up on the wing to Kubulikov, cutting for the net. Saved by Steve Gannett as he stood his ground. Gannett, in the brief time we have seen him in this game, has been impressive.
Very, and he looks very poised, not nervous at all. And he hasn't played on this tour in Czechoslovakia or in Russia, so it's been a while since he's had game conditions, but he's looking and sharp, playing well.
Zinoyev, who has scored one of the 2 Soviet goals, plays it back in his own zone to Ovchinnikov, knocked off the puck by Fleury. Back to the point to Sabarin. Sabarin managed to keep it in at the line, then Priakin was dumped and the puck is fired out of the zone.
Well, you have to give this Kiev team marks. They're outmanned as far as weight and height's concerned, but they're not out-hustled, and they don't mind taking the body. They take it. Good shot.
Long shot from the point, and that one is kicked out off the stick of Shireyev. As Harry said earlier, the top scoring defenseman on this Sokol Kiev team, Shireyev. Pass in the wing to Ranheim. Ranheim trying to go around Shireyev. He's knocked off the puck. It goes loose. McCrimmon into the corner for Hunter. Hunter is body. He and Nada battle. It comes loose to Shireyev.
Although the Kiev team does not play in the Russia-North American tour in December and January, I'm quite sure we might see some team pick him up. He's slated to play for the Soviet national team this year in the World Championship, and he's an impressive defenseman, number 14. In fact, the defense core for the Kiev team, as the 6 of them, have played very well, and they have played 6, not 8, the way you might think. And there is the fellow we're talking about, number 14.
We played 12-16 of this third period. No goals so far in the third. It was 2-0 Calgary after 1. 4-2 for the Flames after 40 minutes of play. Shot from the faceoff by Poplinski is steered to the corner. Joel Otto is battling for it there. He tried to get it back to the line. Mark Hunter helped keep it in. Poplinski looking in front for Hunter, but it goes off a stick to Shireyev. Shireyev not at all reluctant to cut in front of his own net when he brings it out of the zone.
You want me to give you a list of good ones in the National League that used to do that? Serge Savard, Doug Harvey, Bobby Orr. When they had the puck, they'd go anywhere with it.
Penalty is going to come up here to Joel Otto.
Now that in the National League, Don, would not be a penalty. And you watch Joel Otto right here. A cross-check, but not a vicious cross-check at all. And I think in the National League, he'd have got away with it. But he's so much bigger than most of the people he tangles with that it's pretty tough for him not to be overtopping a guy. Not only do they have Joel Otto in the box, but he is their premier penalty-killing forward.
They are also without one of their better defensive forwards tonight in Colin Patterson. He is not dressed this evening again. We mentioned that Jamie McCowan, Jonas Bergqvist, Mike Vernon, and Colin Patterson are sitting this one out.
Well, Doug Gilmour, number 39. What a trade that was by Cliff Fletcher. Gilmour was absolutely superb in their run to the championship last spring.
Shireyev, cross ice to Lubnin. He tried to fire it off into the corner to Nada, and it was intercepted by Doug Gilmour. Not only has he contributed points offensively, he has been solid defensively in this game.
Well, when your second leading scorer can play shift after shift against the other team's best center, you got a hockey player, and that's exactly what Gilmour does.
Nada, cross ice, and Sinkov all set to one-time it, and the puck bounced off his stick.
Now, if Sinkov had a deeper blade on his stick, the score would be 4-3.
1:10 remaining in the penalty to Joel Otto. McCrimmon in his own zone. Around the boards to Ranheim. He gives it back to McCrimmon. Sinkov got there first. Leaves it in the corner for Botvinko to the point. Now into Nida. To Botvinko in front of the net. Shireyev with a shot. Good save by Gannett. Another shot by Lubnin. The rebound. And Gannett covers up. Gannett has made several good saves in this third period. None better than on this power play.
Well, he sure has been sharp, and the Flames have had more trouble killing penalties tonight against this team than they did Thursday against Kimmich. And here's a little flurry of shots that Steve Gannett would not allow to get past him. And he looks like he knows exactly where the puck is at all times. And there is Steve Gannett, who's also making his presence felt. I don't know how this team's going to cut down when they have to get to 23 or 24 guys.
Some tough decisions facing Terry Crisp, Cliff Fletcher, and the other members of the Calgary Flame Brain Trust, the coaching staff, the assistants, Paul Baxter and Tom Watt, Al McNeil. Doug Riseborough.
Lanny McDonald. They got enough guys voting on it anyway.
Back to the line. Zineyev with a shot deflecting off a stick up into the crowd. Doug Gilmour has been out there killing off penalties and doing an admirable job for the Flames.
Well, he usually splits the center position in the penalty killing team with Joel Otto. Joel Otto's in the penalty box. So Gilmour, and one of his great assets beside his ability to play is his endurance. Boy, in the finals at the end of a long season, he was playing every other shift when the game got down to the short strokes, and he seemed to thrive on that kind of ice time, and it would have killed a lot of players in the National League, and he's the second smallest player on the Calgary team. But he may be as big as any when it comes down to who does what.
And it was just over a year ago, early in September, that Cliff Fletcher was able to acquire him from St. Louis in that trade. Penalty to Joel Otto has now expired. The Flames back at full strength, and Otto steps into the Soviet forward Stepanashev as he attempted to bring the puck up ice. The Soviets try again. Stepanashev goes cross ice to Yuldashev, fired wide of the net. Loose along the corner. Malkoff gets it loose. Yuldashev to Gorbishin coming in from the point, couldn't get a shot away. He was tied up, and back comes Poplinski.
And we're seeing more cases where the point men for the Kiev team jump off the blue line into the slot to try and reduce the gap of 4-2. And sometimes he's tough to cover.
Penalty coming up to the Soviets at 15:33 of the third.
A few words.
Hansen keeps it in. Godonuck will try and get it out again. This time he gets some help from Oletsky, and it's cleared into the neutral zone. Loose puck with Oletsky having problems getting away from Gilmour. Gilmour finally does come up with it. Tried to go cross ice, and McClellan had difficulty handling it, and the Flames have to retreat in their own zone to try and reorganize this attack. Godonuck now to Oletsky. Oletsky takes a hit, loses his helmet in the process as he is bodied by Johansson. And there's a penalty coming up against the Calgary Flames.
I've been off of them now for, well, in September it'll be 2 years.
Well, in professional football, that would have been called clotheslining, but they call it roughing here at the Kiev Sports Palace. And as a result, the Flames will finish the game with the exception of 3 seconds shorthanded unless Kiev scores.
Joel Otto is out there with Gilmour, McCrimmon, and Suter in a penalty-killing role for the Flames. Nida fires it in. McCrimmon gets there first along the boards for Otto, and Otto helps the puck continue on its way down the ice.
Well, the Flames haven't been called upon to win this game by their penalty killing, but their goaltenders, Wamsley and Gannett, could easily qualify for stars 1 and 2 as far as the Flames are concerned. They've had to make some good saves, and I think the opposition tonight has been a little tougher than it was Thursday night in Leningrad.
The game has certainly been played with more intensity. As it's dumped down the ice, Joel Otto going after it. Samoylov way out of his net to play it up along the boards. The Flames with no obvious flaws. One of the reasons they were successful in their drive to a Stanley Cup. Good penalty killing, a fine power play, excellent goaltending. They can use the body effectively. They look as though they're going to be the power again in the National Hockey League in this 1989-90 season, which certainly isn't good news for their other opponents, particularly those in the Smythe division.
Well, when your team gets that kind of goaltending, you got a real chance of being successful. And the goalie for Kiev is out, so now there's 6 skaters against 4. A tactic that's rarely used in Russia, pulling your goalie.
The Soviets gained control. Malkov cross ice. Kristich couldn't control that high pass. Ziniev to Kristich. Kristich bumped by Natras. The puck goes loose in the corner. Yeldushev back to the line. Gorbushin to Stepanichev. To Kristich. Kristich moving in. Trying to go to his backhand. He's checked. The penalty is over, and so is the hockey game, as the Calgary Flames win it 5-2.
Well, Calgary played a strong game, but their opponents were stronger than they were Thursday night, and I think the early body checking and early lead that Calgary deserved and earned in the first period meant the difference. It was just too tough to come from behind for this smaller but spunky Kiev Sokol team.
Just 1 goal in the third period, a power play tally, his second of the game, an unassisted goal by Calgary's Mark Hunter. And so the final score, Calgary 5, Sokol Kiev 2.
So Calgary makes it 2 for 2. Darryl Burnett back in the Sports Nightly studios with Herb Brooks. And Herb, I look at my watch. We went on the air at 1 o'clock. It's not even 3:30 yet. This is not a typical NHL game, is it?
Well, that all has to do with the rink. The width, the length of the ice, Darryl, just speeds everything up. We don't see as many scrums in the corner. That's why I'd like to see the National Hockey League just move their nets out a little bit, more flow, quicker play, and really brings out some of the unique abilities of the athletes of the National Hockey League.
Talking about unique abilities, Mark Hunter with 2 goals. We'll look at the final one coming up next. We'll take a break and be right back. Stay with us.